Thank you, Marie.
Okay. Now I talk about the Japanese organ transplantation medical care situation from 2002 to 2019. So let me talk about the background in Japan. So, first of all, Japanese most big issues of organ transplantation medical care is a lack of organ donation. So patients cannot receive organs. That's why the rate of organ transplantation medical care cases is very few. The reason is this is organ transplantation law. It started very late, 1997 in Japan. This is the first organ transplantation law. And the total number of 86 organ donation under the original law. So in average, 5 cases per year, very few. And then Japanese government tried to revise the organ transplantation law. It's increased tenfold, but still 622 cases total. So tenfold increase, but 50 cases only. So most of Japanese recipients depend on OECD countries, or we say overseas transplant. So or family circle and living donor. It also have a ESCA program. So few organ donation number to how much few I try to show. And the left side kidney and this side is heart. This budget shows the number of organ donation in 2017. And red budget is United States and the yellow budget is EU. And Japanese budget is blue one, so almost none. Regarding any kinds of organs, but heart is very few. And the reason why so few organ donation in Japan, we have a very unique history of organ transplantation. The unique history, we have a Wada Case. It's 1968. Wada Case is the first Japanese heart transplant performed by Dr. Wada in Sapporo Medical School. I'm teaching in Sapporo Medical School too. So, and this case is, the content of this case is the recipient died after 83 days because they were not a suitable heart transplant candidate. Because it means a heart transplant not for almighty, for heart failure. Only specific heart disease is useful. But Dr. Wada transplant to patient who doesn't need an organ transplant. So it's a kind of human experiment. And the donor, he died, he drowned in the ocean, but that's ambulance saved his life. But Dr. Wada stopped life-sustaining machine and stopped. He was back to the death, and he became once his breathing recovered, but he was back to the brain dead status. And then Dr. Wada accused the mother. He killed the recipient, both of the recipient and the donor, actually two. So 1968, he was accused of murder in the Japanese court. But finally, at the end, found innocent because due to no document. He's thrown away all of document, patient document and donor document, and heart transplant to change recipient's heart and donor's heart, but he's thrown away heart, recipient's heart. So no document he did or not. In a court, evidence is very important. So no evidence he did organ transplantation, but he did. and 2 patients died. Not 2 patients. 1 heart failure patient and 1 drowned man died. This is true. That's why basically, usually, generally we think about he killed 2 persons, but no documents. So that's why he's not a murder in Japan, in Japanese under law. So this is Wada case. After that, medical anthropologist, very famous medical anthropologist and Margaret Rock pointed out this case. We Japanese after effect of Wada case. So to mistrust. Why is mistrust for organ transplant surgeons? And the second mistrust is organ transplantation medical care itself. Japanese don't like it. So it's still longing after that, about 50 years. And Wada finally found no guilty, so he passed away in 2010. So nobody knows the truth. But one truth, 2 boys died. So that's why we have a few organ donation numbers. So, but we have a lot of patients who need organ transplant. So most of the recipients depend on overseas transplant.
No, don't say.
Look at people,
Okay.
not at the screen.
So this picture shows 2 girls. Their older brother, of course under 10, he suffered heart failure. So he had to go abroad to receive a heart. So 2 younger sisters spreading paper and begging charitable money. Because to go to the United States to receive organ heart transplant, it needs big money. Excuse me, about 200,000 million yen or more to United States or Australia or Germany. So the Sphinx family have to gather big money on the street and big money on the passengers and even small crowds. This is Japanese situation. So Japanese government tried to reverse organ transplantation law, much more wider organ donor. But one solution is under the revised law, prioritize family. In other words, family first organ donor rule. This means if we have one of my family member need an organ transplant, I can name it. If, for example, my sister needed organ transplant, I can name it my sister's name, my sister. When I die, I can donate to my sister directly, not for everybody. So maybe you can see this is Japanese current Japanese donor card. All of National Health Insurance, I've printed a donor card. This is my National Health Insurance. The back of the National Health Insurance card, there is a donor card. We have to write down something. So this special comment part here in Japanese biko, but this is an English card. So special comment means I can put my sister's name. So my organ automatically go to my sister. So I can save my sister. But this is a a kind of direct donation. It's prohibited by WHO. Because organ transplantation is based on, depend on gift of life, depend on others' love. So direct donation is just focus on a specific person. It's not fair. For example, WHO prohibited if I become a branded donor, direct donation means I can name the specific person. For example, I can name if I write down the Professor Takahashi, my organ automatically go to the Professor Takahashi. If I can write down no Dario, how many years he wait, I get my organ never come to the Dario. It's not fair because organ donation principle others voluntarily or fair. So worldwide organ donation criteria is if I become a blinded person, my organ to for everybody. But depends on medical conditions need. But I cannot donate name to someone. Because if it the way Joe allowed this direct donation, it's much more connected with black market, organ seller or something else. So Japanese few organ donation depend on the overseas transplant is one solution. But another solution is depend on suicide donor. So net budget is Japan to compare other countries, United States and UK. And Japanese suicide donor is very high. And we are struggling with this 20 years or more than 20 years. Japanese organ donation is very still few. But technology is progressing very quick. So as far as the kidney transplant, new treatment, preemptive kidney transplantation is more and more common in kidney failure patients. So it means kidney patients usually go to dialysis first, and then transplant, kidney transplant from living donors or dead donors either. And then 5 years after, in average, kidney transplant patient back to redialysis again because organ rejection, natural rejection, chronic rejection. And then a patient tried to receive a retransplant again if he are lucky, and then go back to dialysis. This is a natural course. But preemptive we said PET, this treatment is skipping dialysis, just direct to transplantation. So after 5 years, patient has to repeat the retransplant. And then more 5 years after, retransplant. However, it's more organ donation needed. So it's not so seems to go well. So in the middle, back to dialysis. But it depends on the mostly family support donor, living donor. So first father is a patient, father is a donor. Second, mother is become a donor. Third, sister or brother become a donor. So at that time, and at the beginning, kidney patient have a plan. First transplant is mother. Second one is mother. And the third one is sister. I wonder it is healthy thinking way. But it's PET included very ethical issues. But most of kidney transplant recipients depend on a living donor within a family cycle. How many donors within the family cycle? Very few. But the technology cannot wait the organ shortage. So, from 2002 to 2004, I tried to research. This is early time, just after the organ transplantation law established. I tried to introduce narratives by organ transplant surgeons. Transplant surgeon has a dilemma. One transplant surgeon says medical treatment of this suscitation. Sorry, my pronunciation. So please read. So one organ transplant surgeon says dying patient recovered dramatically, and when I put new organs to their bodies, I cannot save such a patient without organ transplant. It's a miracle. It's a positive assessment. But another organ transplant surgeon says cruel medical treatment. Because whenever I harvest a bleeding heart from a donor, I feel that I've given him a finished blow. It's too painful for me as a human. It's cruel for doctors. And number one is a narration of organ receiver, organ transplant surgeon. But for organ transplant to patient, for recipients. But second narration is harvesting donor, harvesting surgeon. For him, very harvesting the organ to patient from donor is very cruel treatment for surgeons. This is narration transplant surgery, transplant organ. Transplant surgeon. But most of transplant surgeons totally say that organ transplant is a gift of love, not life. And this narration is recipient narratives. The one recipient says grateful medical treatment. He says, I really thank my donor and my donor family. I'm trying to keep new organ as long as possible to show my appreciation. That's my mission. But another recipient says, this waiting medical treatment is an organ transplantation. I didn't want to die, just I wanted to live. But as a result, I was waiting for someone's death. It's a medical care to depend on a death. So it's a really heavy heart. Heavy heart. So every recipient has a very ambiguous feeling. Of course, thank you for recipient and donor, but they feel guilty for donor too either. So their assessment is when I ask them what is the organ transplant for recipient, they say renewable life. My life renewed with donated organs. And donor family's narrative is also different. And one donor father says, it's organ donation of my son is a wish of father. he says, I want my, no, not son, daughter, sorry. I want my daughter to live even if only her organ. Although she is a missing child, she lives inside a recipient's body somewhere. I want to see her. Because for him, this recipient is still alive inside someone's body. So I can see someday he believes truly. And second one is with her mother. She decided to donation of her son. I'd like to make my son alive inside someone's body to avoid his death. I had a feeling that I didn't lose everything from me. I always with my son. She mentioned about his son still alive inside her, like when she was pregnant, and his son was in her womb. She think about her son actually legally dead, but after organ donation, he lived inside her body. So both of this donor family says organ donation is a reversible life of donors. So it means this reversible life is more energy. And Japanese donor mother says organ transplant is a reversible life. In Japanese, organ transplant is a more energy. I'd like to show the figure. The organ transplant is still very simple. Transplant surgeons performed organ transplant surgery and the recipient received organ. And the donor family decided the organ donation decision maker. And the donor's organ and the donors are different, but for them, donors and the donor's organ are the same. And the narrated organ transplantation is by surgeons. They said surgeons are not doctors anymore. Surgeons are mediators between donor and recipient. So we are not a doctor anymore, just a mediators. But the recipient think about we receive an organ from donors. But donor family narrated one of the ways to survive my son's organ, even just one organ survive, not death. So donor family and the recipient, and do not believe the recipient is son's life receiver. The recipient says donor family is given life, renewable life. So they have an interdependence relationships. So donor family never expect the recipient to death, because recipient's death means donor's death. And the recipient think about they don't care about donor family. Recipient believes I received the organ from donor, not donor family. But the donor family decision maker is very important. That's why they try to make an interdependence relationships. This data is 2004. After that, I'm keeping follow-up research about the donor family. Because for me, donor family's reaction is very unbelievable, very unique. So I try to keep follow-up research. And this data shows 2016, from 2003 to 2016. So during 30 years, their assessment changed. When I started research 2003, at that time I'm just starting the organ transplant under the law. So total total blended donor families number is just 16 in Japan. So my informant is 6 cases. So 6 cases is very few actually, but 6 cases of total 60 donor families and my informant 6 is 1/3, not so few. So at that time, 3 donor families regret organ donation and 3 organ family satisfaction to organ donation. But after 13 years old, after only 1 donor family keep the same assessment satisfaction, only 1. And regret, 3 regret donor family turn to change satisfaction. And satisfaction donor family change to regret. What happens is 13 years. I try to research through the interview. This figure shows at the first my research, one of the conclusion, and the most important thing, donor himself's organ donation will is important for donor family. It mostly make donor family satisfied. It's an essential reason. But after 30 years after, in an early stage, donors organ donation will is very important and it's very useful to donor family satisfied. But after 16 years after, donors organ donation will is not so working. So time to change from regret to satisfied and satisfied to regret, and only 1 case is same assessment. What happens is 30 years for them, because opposite assessment. So I try to research. Sorry. The finding, based on the findings, turn to regret to satisfied organ donor families, and the people who surrounding them, for example, family members or relatives or neighbors or community, they're good. They praise donor family. For example, you donate your son's organs. It's wonderful. So assessment, community's assessment is very important. So regret to turn to change satisfaction. And 2 cases, from satisfaction to regret cases, they are pointed out family members, relatives, and societies. An incredible example, and someone thrown away a stone donor family's home and broken windows, or one of the relatives tells them, you are your really parent, you sell the organ to others. Such a kind of negative assessment for others turn to change regret. And good positive assessment or praiseful assessment, and good assessment turn to change and regret to satisfaction. And keeping satisfaction family as a constantly gives give donor family a good assessment. So it means early stage and organ donation for donor families. Donors himself organ donation is very important in the early stage, but chronic stage is the process of the grieving process. Donors organ donation not so important. But others assessment very important for donor families. So I'd like to show the regretful donor family's view. Donor mom was glad to lose her son, and we, donor family, couldn't talk about the organ donation for more than 10 years. Even now, when she is a donor mom, has been sick in bed. And another donor family says, I sometimes wondered why I donated my son's organs at that time. I know that he died and donated his organ, which meant that the recipient survived. That's good. But surviving the recipient and my son's death are different. So this donor mom says, my son is died, and organ donation is okay. Someone survived, it's okay. But losing my son is different issues. So her grieving is more and more bigger for her. So satisfied family says, when I donated my book, which included her narration, she wrote to me directly by email, thank you for your book. It becomes my family wonderful memento. I'm so happy that you wrote about my family event in your book. I will also read my daughter. At the time, organ donation time, the daughter was 5 years old. They don't remember her father's organ donation. So my daughter read this book because she was too young to remember her dad's organ donation. And finally, current social challenges. And there are generation gap already. So recently, young transplant surgeons don't know about the Wada case anymore. They don't care about the Wada case. I'm teaching in a support medical school. Even support medical school students don't know about the Wada case anymore. So they don't care about the reason why few organ donation. They don't understand. But more than 60 years old generation of transplant surgeons, they still says Wada case is one of the reasons of few organ donation in Japan. So challenges by 60 years old and heart transplant surgeons. He tried to do the mokto. Mokto. How to say Takahashi sensei mokto in English?
Mokso.
Mokto.
What is that? Mokto. How to do? Oh, this is mokso, right?
Mokso?
Yeah. Mokso. In the martial arts, we do the mokso.
How to say in English?
This is an international word, mokso. It's a martial arts we everybody say.
黙想と黙想は really different, I think. 祷は祈るですから、prayer closing your eyes とかそんな感じなんです。
Oh, I see.
で、ちょっと違うね。同じような感じです。
How to say in English?
This is the common language like samurai.
Yeah, if it's common, I don't know it.
Yeah.
I don't know it either.
Yeah.
For example, I'm wondering how is it? Richard, do you know the?
He hasn't heard the word.
I don't know this word.
You know about the?
But we haven't heard the word.
No. You know about the Kosen? Kosen.
Yeah, it's a mokto.
Yeah.
Yeah. at the time, Genbaku Day,
Yeah, those were related to the line.
8:15, they tried to do a mokuto.
Yeah.
まあ
We would just say a prayer of a minute of silence as a prayer. And that's common around the world, but we don't use mokuto. We just say a remembrance prayer.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
moment of
1 minute
silence.
silence.
Moment of
Yeah,
silence.
1 minute silence.
Yeah, so
To
we
appreciate.
use that.
Yeah. That's mokuto?
Mhm.
Okay.
So mokuto is a kind of culture. So one heart transplant surgeon, Japanese surgeon, tried to do that in southern area. One legacy in southern California near Los Angeles. She tried to do his hospital. When he donated organs, he harvested organs, and there is a branded patient. I wonder if he's a patient anymore. So just before the organ harvest, doctor tried to do the mokuto, 1 minute, pray for branded donors and appreciate their organ donation well, and appreciate for his life, and wish his new organ working well. And this kind of ritual is based on Buddhism, but American doctors accept this ritual. So one legacy is near California, near Los Angeles. So some hospital try to do before the organ harvest, try to do all of the organ surgeon try to do organ donors to mokuto, and then harvest the organs. And the current recipient transplanted life is recipient often suffer organ rejection and struggling to maintain their transplanted lives. The number of dialysis recipients have been increasing. It's natural. So recipient back to dialysis. And it's very common, but not so big problem. But number two, number of retransplanted recipients are increasing, but very low. But it means one recipient received 2 donors organs. And number 3, dialysis recipients are appearing, and the second organ donation received organ rejected. So the recipient back to dialysis again, and waiting for the transplant. But I never seen the. I know some recipient dialysis and transplanted recipient, but I don't know transplanted recipients yet, because few organ donation number. Even once is difficult, more than difficult to hit lottery, but twice or 3 times impossible to find. So current non-families assessment is original research from 2002 to 3, 6 non-family interviewed, and 50% satisfied at the time. And from that research, only 1 donor family same situation in satisfaction, but 2 donor family turned to from satisfaction to regret, and the 3 donor family turned to regret to satisfaction. It means social factor more important in Japan. That's a conclusion. In the past, Japanese organ transplantation medical care started with a scandalous case, Wada Case, in 1916. Now present, Japanese organ donation numbers remain extremely low, and most recipients still depend on living donors or overseas transplant. in 2019. However, it's possible for Japanese to have a more hopeful future for organ transplantation globally. So I'd like to introduce the one donor mother's wisdom words, wise words. She told me, I think that organ transplantation medical care won't become widespread unless donor families think that it is positive. Well, organ donation is wonderful, donor family feels by themselves. It's only way to organ donation is become a more common medical care like other countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody like to ask some questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes,
How
Ru?
many people actually have been interviewing for collecting such cases data for yourself?
You mean a surgeon and recipient and donor family total? And informant very few.
How many?
To be honest, the many barrier, privacy barrier and many kinds of barriers, so very few. Total formal interview is total 23 only, but keep following up same person. So changing is the same person,
I see.
but not casual interview informant more than 100 people.
Have you been videotaping of the interview with the permission or just recording?
Of course, yes.
Interview record?
Interview.
Videotaping?
No, not video.
Recording? That's
Just a
how.
voice.
I see.
Yeah, okay, yes, Paramita, yeah.
You can talk first and me later.
Maria, I want to know, did you do research like how many people satisfied with the organ transplantation or how many people dissatisfied with it? Do you know, do you have data or not?
All of this,
Yeah, I mean, have you ever do a research like how many person are satisfied with the transplantation and how many person dissatisfied with the transplantation? Have you ever?
so my data is changed.
I mean, from what have you done? Do you think it's more, is people more satisfied or dissatisfied? Which one is
Regret, I think.
regret? Okay. And they give their consent before, right? That's it. Thank you.
Because according to not formal interview, it's casual interview. That's why I cannot show you
But it's Japanese.
Japanese. So in a casual interview or just a chattering, 90% regret. But I cannot show. Sorry.
In Maria, in India, there are so many doctors who do organ transplantation, and there are so many people. They are coming from different countries, Pakistan, in Bangladesh, and there are so many from Sri Lanka. Everywhere they come and they take organ transplantation from the doctors in India, and it is more popular in Chennai. There are so many doctors and there are so many hospitals where organ transplantations are taking place. That I had given that as one of the paper last time about public health care and private health care. I had mentioned that. So it is going along, not just kidney and heart, lung, liver, everything is taking place.
And maybe in Japan, many transplant surgeons, we have enough, plenty of enough enough number of organ transplantation, but they have no job because no organ donation. So they try to do the ordinary heart failure treatment or something like that. So mostly organ transplant surgeon working in overseas because no organ, he cannot work.
You other comments? Anybody who's done similar research? It's interesting that you said 90% regret. It's much more than I think.
I heard that you wrote some books. A book. Has any relation to your research here? What is the name of your book?
Organ donation in Japan.
Yes. Would you show us, please?
I saw that book.
I'm not a bookseller. Because it's very long research term period. So 15 years, about 15 years, very
Hold
long.
the books up,
So
please.
I integrate one this book. So starting my research 2002, first data is 2002, and final data is 2015 or 14, I think this one. And then Japanese one this year published.
Hold it up. Okay.
So you published the English first and then the Japanese
Yes,
second.
it's also ESCA program included, but I cannot publish in Japan. Because when I try to do an interview and when I write up my PhD dissertation or giving a paper in a conference, I kick out the Japanese conference, to be honest, because it's a kind of taboo. So transplant surgeon is a very sometimes give me a phone call to threaten I don't do a presentation in medical school. So I put many a kind of pressure I was given. So I tried to keep secret. So I tried to do the research in United States. Because in the United States, San Francisco, Stanford University, there are many Japanese recipients and many Japanese doctors. And mostly Japanese doctors working in Texas, and then Texas and Cleveland, Ohio, Cleveland. Kidney transplant mostly Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, and heart transplant is mainly in San Francisco, Stanford University, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, UCLA.
Nothing.
Yes.
You showed me the card. You showed me the card where people write that they will.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you showed the card, is it not? Now, the ADMK minister, Jayakumar, he is asking all people to give donation. Eyes, liver, anything. Heart. Now all of us are giving. We have to go and talk to him and we have to say that we'll fill in the card and we'll give. If something happens, because we are all aging,
Yes.
and eyes will be given, kidneys will be given, liver will be given,
But to be
many
honest-
things can be given. That's what we are doing now.
Yes, we have to write down
Yeah.
the medical circle, but to be honest, I don't put on a medical circle. I don't make a circle in a brain death. I make a circle heart death, because my mom wishing heart death. My mom does against my organ donation on a brain death stage. That's why I make a circle. But when my mother passed away, I try to depend on her wish of my nephew. Because after this, I don't care about it. I want to donate brain dead status, but I'm wondering if family members' procedure organ harvest is more important for me. So Japanese mostly recipient negative for the children's organ donation from brain death status. So now I depend on mom's decision maker. Mom is my organ decision maker, but after she became older and she passed away, I depend on my nephew. Because I think my organ, not my own organ. I think for everybody, but mother's idea and opinion, my nephew's opinion are different. So I depend on organ donor family, not me. But by myself, I don't care.
Thank you. It's interesting. Any other comments? I just find it surprising that you think 90% of the recipients of organs had a negative experience, because that's quite high. In your opinion, do you think would you expect many organ recipients to have a negative experience, or you haven't talked about?
Well, actually, I have no experience with that, so I don't know.
And then so also she was saying that some of the organ transplant surgeons telephoned and threatened her not to talk about the results. That's maybe.
And that's why I try to do a presentation only in the United States. So this book was, I got an email from AAA, American Anthropological Association. The editor attended my presentation, and they sent the books offered me to publish, but not in Japan. So 4 years after, and I get a career, and National University budget one editor give me a good assessment. He's interested in me. And maybe before that, I forgot the name. Dr. Seagal in Nanzan University in Japan. You know Nanzan University? Nanzan University. He's a Christian priest from Australia. He gave me a good assessment about English book, and he invited me to presentation in Nanzan University. I tried to do the presentation in Japanese after 10 years after my research. And one of the audience is the editor of Japanese publisher, and he offered me to write an English Japanese book, but 4 years after.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay.